guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm coming to you today with the review for the game between Arsenal and Manchester United. So let's get into it. So I'd like to begin with the match analysis, but before I do, another one of our players has faced racial abuse after another one of our matches. So as you guys will probably know, Marcus Rashford faced racist abuse after his performance against Arsenal. Now, as I said in the last video, football is a community sport, It's a global sport and we're all global ambassadors of the game, whether we're fans, players, staff, whether we're working with the club. We all love Manchester United, we all love football. And for me, this racism thing is just getting far too out of hand, We all need to work together to stamp it out because it's just awful what's going on. I mean, that's twice in 2 games that it's happened. Just because we've performed poorly, people are giving our players racist abuse, and it's absolutely, appalling what's going on. So for me, this just needs to be stamped out as soon as possible. And the people who are doing these terrible things and saying abusive words to our players based on their race or their religion or their color or any other thing, it needs to be just stamped out of the game. We really need to get rid of all these, bloody idiots that are doing this nonsense, and we need to just, stop it from happening in future because it's just getting too far, Not only did Man United players get racially abused, but Reece James, a Chelsea player, he also got racially abused. And, it's just awful. And we need to work together to just get rid of this racial abuse. And we need to, catch these people out and get evidence of what they're doing. So please, if you do ever see any of this racist abuse towards any players, do report it because we need to get rid of it. Right, now on to the match analysis. So, as you know, a couple of days ago we played a game against Arsenal at the Emirates. The final scoreline was 0-0. Now, watching that game, I feel, and I totally agree with the words of Gary Neville. I'm not sure if any of you have seen his podcast that he released on YouTube, but I totally agree with the words. The Manchester United team at the moment just don't have that winning mentality that we should. He was talking about Man City and Liverpool both having titles under their belts, and the current teams and squads that those two sides have. They've got that winning mentality that when they have a momentum going, they don't stop. They just keep pressing on. Now, we've seen Liverpool's form dip, but as you can see in the last couple of games, they brought it back, Salah's confidence came back. He scored 2 goals against Man United. He did a good job again last night against West Ham. So we can see Liverpool's momentum's coming back, and Man City, they've gone on a winning run of 8 games now. So we, as Manchester United, need to get that mentality back that we can win the title. At the end of the day, we are still second place. We're in the middle of Liverpool and Manchester City at the moment. So we are there. We're up there with those 2 teams that are meant to be the best teams in the league. So it is showing that our players, they can do well. But it's just we have to go on this massive run now and just win these games. So the Arsenal game, for example, right? There was instances where Man United should have scored. Cavani, he had 2 beautiful chances. He had one where he was right in front of goal and he scuffed it. And he had another one where he went for a bicycle kick. And again, it went slightly wide. Martial, the man just here, he had a couple of chances as well. One where he should have buried it. Another one, it was a bit of a tougher chance, but when you've got to beat defenders, this man here and Marcus Rashford also, they need to just get on that sort of roll and those runs and just take on the players. But for some reason at the moment they don't seem to have the capability to do it, and I think Ollie needs to brush some of that mentality that he had as a player. That you've got to get in those right positions. You've got to be able to take players on. You've got to win the ball higher up the pitch. I mean, that's a major problem in Manchester United right now. We're just unable to win the ball higher up the pitch. We had 2 instances where we managed to do it. We counter-attacked and we created good chances. So, pressing from the front like Cavani does, like Bruno does, like Rashford does. All good and well, but you've got to win the ball. For example, now the thing that I don't like to talk too badly about our players, but the thing I have to say is Martial, right here, this man, he's been very, very lazy in games. He loses the ball and he jogs back. We saw it against Sheffield, he lost the ball. Bruno had to run all the way back to try and win the ball back. And yeah, again, in the Arsenal game, he lost the ball. He just jogged back. He didn't try and fight for the ball, to win it back. So our players, they need to start winning the ball higher up the pitch. And once again, okay, we managed the 0-0. We managed to ride through at the Emirates. It was a draw. It was 1 point. Better than a loss, but not good enough for us at the moment, what we're trying to achieve. For me, the pairing of Maguire and Lindelof, it just doesn't work. Maguire needs someone who's fast, who's strong, who's strongly built, wants to run after the ball at all costs, doesn't always ball watch, has that defensive awareness. And for me, Eric Bailly is that man, but we know Eric Bailly is injury prone. So, obviously, I'm guessing Ollie didn't want to rush him back for the Arsenal game, because Ollie's probably got a longer plan with Bailly. But if that isn't the case and Ollie is picking Lindelof as his first choice centre-back along with Maguire, well, then that needs to be changed. Because me personally, I just think it's an awful partnership, And yes, a couple of seasons ago, Lindelof was the star man with Smalling. We all saw that, a few seasons back. But Lindelof's lost that edge. He just doesn't have that sharpness that he did have a few years back. So for me, either Bailly and Maguire has to be the partnership, or obviously the January transfer window is over. In the summer, we need to look for a new centre-back to go along with Maguire. Someone who's fast, someone who's strong. That's my opinion on it. As for the fullbacks, Shaw and Wan-Bissaka, I think they both did a cracking job. Wan-Bissaka for me was probably our best player on that pitch. Again, I'll go into player ratings and man of the match in the next section. But for me, Wan-Bissaka, the attacking runs he was making, he was actually running into the box, and at times he was playing more like a right winger than a right back. And I just thought it was a lovely burst of energy, something different that we saw from Wan-Bissaka, I mean, I'm quite surprised why he didn't bring this into his game before. Because for me, he was just, he was sublime when he did run into the box. And there was a couple of chances where he could have scored, There was a header where the keeper saved it. And yeah, it was a good effort by him. And Shaw, we know he's been Mr. Consistent for quite a while. He's had good performances practically in all the games. And yeah, he did it again against Arsenal. Unfortunately, our players just couldn't, our attacking men, they couldn't score. Now, on a slightly more sour note, as we saw, McTominay had to come off quite early for Martial. And it seems McTominay is going to be out for the next couple of games with some sort of stomach issue that he had. In England, we'd be taking the mick of him and saying he's got the shits, which worldwide is known as diarrhea. But, it might be something more... something worse than that. So I don't want to, make too many jokes about his problems. So McTominay looks like he's going to be out for the next few games. And for me, I think the team did okay overall, but really that was a game for the taking and we should have won. So for me, I'm a bit disappointed with the result. I think the performance was okay, but the result, the stage of the season we're at, we need to get that momentum going again. Because if we do, and City and Liverpool do slip up in places, the title is there for the taking. And our players, they just need that winning mentality. And Ollie just needs to get them to the training ground and say to them, right, lads, that's it. We've got to do it now. So next I'll be moving on to the player ratings. So I'll start with the goalkeeper, David De Gea. He had an okay game. Did what he was supposed to do. Made a couple of decent saves. I'll say he was slightly above average, so I'll give him a 7 out of 10. Wan-Bissaka, 8 out of 10. Fantastic defensively, made those top attacking runs. Did exactly what we expected him to do when he came in. Actually exceeded my expectations in this game in the attacking sense, so for me, 8 out of 10. Now for me, Wan-Bissaka, if he continues to attack like that in every game, You know, that's what I want to see. I really do think he'll be bringing 8 out of 10 performances every game if he does that. The centre-backs, Maguire and Lindelof, I'm going to give them 6 out of 10, both of them. I think they both did an okay job, but for me, that partnership still doesn't work, needs to be changed. So, 6 out of 10 for both of those guys. Left back Shaw, 7 out of 10. You know, Mr. Consistent, been very good this season. Again, showed what he can do. Our best left back for sure at the club right now, if you pardon the pun. So for me, yep, 7 out of 10 for that guy. The midfield, Pogba and Bruno, I'm going to go with first. I'm going to give them both 6 out of 10s because I think they're very average performances. We've seen a lot better from them. And, you know, they need to prove how solid they really are. So 6 out of 10. McTominay, everybody's going to say this is a harsh rating, but I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. Obviously, he went off quite early, but what he did do, it was just slightly below average. A couple of times he did lose the ball. So, yeah, 5 out of 10 for McTominay. Attack-wise, so obviously you saw the attack we had. We had Rashford, Cavani, and I am forgetting the third name, but it will be all up in the graphic. Rashford and Cavani, again, 6 out of 10s, average performances. For me, Rashford, he made certain runs which were okay, but I don't know, I just didn't see it. It wasn't the sort of thing I would have expected from him. I would have thought he would have done a bit more. Oh yes, of course, we had Fred in the midfield. Sorry, my apologies. So yes, Fred in the midfield. Yeah, 6 out of 10, just an average job. You know, nothing too impressive. So yes, 6 out of 10. And Cavani, just going back to Cavani, yeah, 6 out of 10 as well. Nothing too spectacular. He made good runs. He had a couple of chances which he should have really buried. Had he scored one of those chances, I probably would have increased his rating to 7 out of 10. But for me, because he missed those chances, 6 out of 10. I will give the man of the match to Wan-Bissaka because for me, you know, he played out of his skin. He did what he was supposed to do. As a right back, you know, he was fantastic against Martinelli. He made good attacking runs. And as you saw by the rating I gave him an 8 out of 10. So yes, 8 out of 10 for Wan-Bissaka. So that's it for this video. Our next game in the Premier League is against Southampton. I will be bringing you a preview for that. So for now, there's only 2 things left to say. Goodbye and come on United!